It's here. The regular season is done. It is finally time for postseason football, though I will say with the new playoff system, feels like we've been playing postseason football for about a month now.
Yeah.
Zach, Dean, Chris Boyle, we are hoping this isn't our last time seeing you this year. It's going to be up to one of 4 playoff teams to win and extend their season, starting with the number 1 team in our Fab Five, Flagler Palm Coast. They return to the postseason for the first time since 2014. They'll host a very good Boone team Friday night.
First district title for Flagler since 2007, too.
Wow.
Their first ever undefeated season. Lots of optimism, lots of excitement going around at Flagler. This is going to be a defensive struggle, I think. These are 2 really good defensive teams. Neither give up a ton of points. Flagler has forced 26 turnovers this year, 16 interceptions. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's
is that leading the area?
It is.
Comfortably.
So they've got a ton of playmakers in the back end. Nelson Paul, Dennis Shorter, Talon Coates, Norman Brown. I mean, you could list the entire defensive unit. They've been that good this year. Boone has a lot of guys that they feel are going to be very comparable in this game. They've got 2 dynamic edge rushers, and C.J. Reeves and Jay Swagheimer have combined for, I think, around 25, 26 sacks this year. You've got a linebacker in Devontae Booker, who's got over 100 tackles.
The running back from Denver?
Yeah, they signed him for the week.
Great signing.
And then they have a player in the secondary, Jack Dixon, who has 30 career interceptions, including a pick 6 late in last week's win over Edgewater, the game that essentially put Boone into the playoffs. I think it's going to be very tight. I think there's every yard's going to be a war to achieve just small gains, and I think the biggest thing for an X factor could be the special teams from Boone. Their kicker, Jonathan DeLuca, has a very strong leg, is going to pin Flagler back deep in their own territory on virtually every kickoff. Can make it from 50-some yards out as far as field goals are concerned. Could be a big X factor, I think, in the game, too.
Yeah, and kind of like if it does play into Flagler's hands, though, it's going to be you got to assume both defenses are going to play well, so which offense is going to make the plays they need to. Flagler's getting their quarterback back, Freeman, so that's a big return for them. Their offense seems to have found something towards the end of the year, put up a bunch of points against the land. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we both went with Flagler in this game, but I think, again, kind of like a lot of games this week, and I think this one especially, it's a coin flip.
The separation's just not very high at all, and I think when it comes down to Flagler, when they've had success, Ty Jenkins has had a huge play in the game somewhere. So you're looking at 13 touchdowns on 81 offensive touches this year. It's essentially 1 out of every 6 or 7 times touching the ball. So if they can find a way to get him in space, that could be the game breaker that they need.
Going from a team who won a district title for the first time in a decade to a team who
makes a habit of this, right?
who's won 10 district titles in the last decade. Mainland getting the dreaded Miami teams. A new one. It's not Central. It's not Carroll City. It is Miami-Norland. And I think it's a matchup that I think you'll agree that Mainland can win this game.
Yeah, man for man, Norland isn't maybe as talented as far as just pure raw athletes as maybe Carroll City, Northwestern. That's not saying that anything negative. That's just any team down there is going to have terrific football players, and they're going to be one of the best teams in the state. Norland comes in ranked 6th in 6A, and they are a team that lost I think 3 times during the regular season. So that tells you about the quality of the opponents they've played and the quality of the team themselves. Mainland comes in on a hot streak. They've won 4 in a row. They've outscored their opponents 189-3.
Not bad.
Their offense seems to have kind of got some rhythm. They have Richard Kamara now at quarterback. They've had him for the last 6 games, and things have he's done very well in the role and added some mobility in the pocket. The big play threat's been DeMarcus Adams this year. He's not disappointed since committing to Florida State. He's averaging 22 yards a catch. For Norland, I think the big thing is going to be their defense. Their defense has been very stingy. They have a big defensive tackle in Denzel Daxon, who's committed to Miami. They've only allowed 85 points in 9 games this year. So for a team in Mainland that really struggled to score against elite competition, this is going to be another night where, again, the low-scoring totals might win.
Mainland's defense is really good, and Mainland's defense is going to keep them in this game. Again, kind of like Flagler, it's going to be up to the Mainland offense led by Richard Kamara making this. It's not Denzel Houston back there. It's not a seasoned veteran.
I feel like throughout the year we kind of lock in on Mainland's offense, but that defense has been outstanding.
It's been really good.
It's been a great unit. they've played very well. You limit Coco to under 200 yards of
offense.
I was
at that game,
21 points.
Yep.
You limit Dr. Phillips, a very dynamic team, to 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this team has played up to its merit. You look at the talent man for man there with Kayvon McCrary, James McCloskey, Julio Thompson up front, and at the back you've got guys like Andrew Plummer, DeMaurice Bellamy, and John Huggins. And this has been a very, very well-oiled machine from day one to now.
Would be fitting that a Mainland team that a lot of people saw as having a down year, they would finally break through against Miami.
Wouldn't that be something, right?
It would be vindication for that group that has really come on strong lately. Heading out to, I guess, Winter Park. I think that's like in Orlando.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I assume it's west of us.
It's near Orlando. It is in Orange County.
That's where Spruce Creek will be. Again, they ended their regular season there last year with a win. They start the postseason this year with Winter Park, an undefeated team.
Right, and that's what you get. You're 8-1. You lose by 3 points to Flagler Palm Coast, and you draw the undefeated number 1 seed in the first round. That's what that's how tough the system can be this year. Winter Park's 10-0, 4 quality wins, specifically the one over Wekiva, who's maybe one of the 10 best teams in the state in 8A. They're ranked, I think, number 6 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Spruce Creek, offensively, aside from the Flagler game, they're scoring at will. They scored 64 on New Smyrna last week. They've got Kyle Minkler and Jock Lord in that zone read, that spread system, and Hayden Flood had 3 touchdowns last week. A guy maybe a bit under the radar this year, even though he leads the area in receiving. It seems crazy you could have that, but he's been kind of maybe the third guy you'd mention there, but he's extremely dangerous. And for this game, you face a Winter Park team that also is excelling in the turnover margin.
Right.
Michael Lopez, their corner, I believe, has 9 interceptions. They have 20 as a team, Winter Park. They take the football away. They are very responsible. They're very sound. They may not blow you away on tape, and they may not necessarily jump out in terms of their athletes. They may not grab you, but they're certainly a very, very strong team, and a team that Spruce Creek maybe feels comfortable in. They did beat them 14-9 last year. They'll know what they're going to see coming in. They played them over the summer in 7-on-7s a couple of times. So this is a match that Andy Price likes in some respects.
Yeah, again, if any team in this area is not going to be intimidated in the postseason, it's going to be Mainland. It's going to be Spruce Creek. Spruce Creek is veteran, especially on that offensive side of the ball. They were there last year. They lost. A lot of those guys came back. They could be playing, take your pick. I don't think they're going to be scared.
In the big game, Knack, I think we've talked about it at some point. They wake up for these games. Mm-hmm. They thrive in these situations, and we'll see what Winter Park does. I mean, Winter Park finished the year with a very nice win against Lake Mary. Yep. They're going to come in with a ton of confidence. They'll have the home crowd, a really great venue in Showalter Field if you've never been there. So for the folks out in Port Orange, they're going to be in for a treat tomorrow night.
Lastly, we head way south, and this is, I think, consensus the toughest area team that's going to face the toughest challenge.
Oh, yeah.
That would be Matanzas. Lost last week to Menendez. Got to go south, and this is your punishment. You got to face a Northwestern team that maybe could beat the college Northwestern team.
We talked last week about the value of that Menendez game. Yep. The fact that they could have won that game, potentially taken the number 6 seed and played Palm Bay Heritage in the first round, as opposed to going down to play Miami Northwestern, ranked number 2 in the state poll, ranked number 23 nationally in Max Preps. This is a team that's absolutely top to bottom loaded. Yep. This is a very big challenge that Matanzas has. It's going to be a challenge just to score points. And I mean, realistically, Northwestern, aside from the second half against Norland, in 34 quarters of football, they gave up 56 points. The defense is loaded top to bottom. You look at some of the names. Nigel Bethel Jr. is a cornerback and wide receiver committed to Florida. Rashad Wild Goose Jr. committed to Georgia, cornerback. Devad Wilson, another corner, committed to Florida. Devontae McCray and Demetrius Mays, 2 guys on the defensive line, committed to North Carolina State and UCF.
Goodness. And
Matanzas' one Achilles heel throughout the entire year has been the play of its offensive line.
Yep.
And they have not established a ground game, and they have not protected Ryan Thomas against top-level teams. They're in for a real challenge, I think.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think Matanzas, at least for me, has exceeded expectations this year. I really thought that they would struggle. They haven't. I think they've beaten a lot of teams where I picked against them. So it was a good year for Matanzas, which lost a lot of players. But to have to go down to Miami and play arguably one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the state. It's a really tall order. So
the players I thought for Matanzas that had to be good this year had to step up. Drew Bowens,
yeah, it's been great.
Tylee Austin, 2 new guys into their system. Trenton Stewart has been a dynamic player, especially out of the backfield as a receiver. Yep. Devin Matthews, of course, we've talked about. He's committed to Navy. He's been very strong. He's got 33 catches on the year. You know, they have exceeded their expectation as a team. To make it to the playoffs 2 years in a row, and especially in this new format where nothing's guaranteed, yep. I think Matanzas can take a lot of pride in what they've done this year.
I'll have you covered for the Mainland game, Norland. It's a 7:30 kickoff. They're all 7:30 kickoffs. You will be at the Winter Park Spruce Creek game. Brett Borden's going to be at that Flagler game. We're going to have you covered down for the Matanzas game as well. Mm-hmm. So give us a follow on Twitter. I'm verified. So follow me over Chris Boyle. I'm Zach Dean. This is Chris Boyle. We will hopefully see you next week, but we need someone to win. So don't let us down.